Hey everyone, if you're a new real estate investor, you want to learn from others, you want to hear other people's journeys and how they got to where they are now, then this is the episode for you. My name is Diana Lizarazo, and today's guest speaker is Lena Guirguis. Now, before we get started, I want to share some exciting news with you. I have a social networking platform for the real estate investing industry. If you are an investor, a mentor, or a professional, you want to be a part of this platform. Be around people that are inspiring. Be around people that are empowering you and lifting you up, because you will get so much more further when you're around the right kind of people. And to get there, it's realestateinvestorfam.com, F-A-M fam.com. Hope to see you guys there. It's a free account too. Now back to the show. Our guest speakers are here to help you by sharing their journeys, telling us about the mindset shifts they've gone through, the changes they've had to make, and we'll also get to hear about their big future goals. So that 5-10 year goal and what changes they're making right now to get to those bigger goals. So if you guys are ready to bring on Lena, send her a thumbs up, send her on the stage right now, if it'll let me. Because usually, I don't know why my Instagram is still misbehaving. I don't know if you guys have this problem when you go live. Actually, it was being good for a little bit, and then it decided that it didn't want to. So let's see. I think she should become not perfect. Hey,
Hi,
how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Happy
Good.
Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Thanks so much for coming on. And
Absolutely.
let's get started with let's start first with sharing with the viewers a little bit about yourself. What kind of real estate investor are you? How long you've been in it? Whatever you'd love to share.
Okay. So my name is Lena Guirguis. I am an investor. My husband and I have been investing together since June of 2004. It's been a while. We are multifamily investors. We buy distressed multifamily. So, the buildings, they're not houses. So we've always done commercial residential. Obviously, when we started, we were doing triplexes, fourplexes. Very quickly, we realized it's the same amount of headaches to go into 8, 10, 12 units as it is to go 3 or 4. And it's a little bit easier to fund 8, 10, 12 units than it is 3 or 4 after you've picked up, let's say, 4 or 5 of those. So we specialize really in picking up those neglected kind of, I don't know, horribly positioned properties in relatively decent neighborhoods. And in turn, we've also created and we operate a full service property management firm. We do a lot of other things, obviously, throughout the evolution of the last 20 years. I'm sure we'll talk about those things as well, but both my husband and I run our businesses full time. I don't want to say we're full time investors because we're not. We run active businesses, and that active business income is what we take and use to grow the wealth using real estate as a vehicle for that preservation and generation.
Hmm. Yeah, so you guys are entrepreneurs, which I feel like that's something that a lot of investors I feel like go through, is that you may start in investing, or the other way around, you may be an entrepreneur and then you become an investor. You start as investing and then you become an entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were both employed. My husband, by profession, is an engineer. He's a professional engineer, and we had jobs, and he wanted to be a real estate multimillionaire. And when I left my job, we realized that leaving your job and investing full time isn't really going to pay the bills in the short term, right? And
Mhm.
we need to pay our bills in the short term. So businesses evolved because obviously I'm very much unemployable. Uh, very much unemployable. So business has evolved. And then when he left his engineering job in 2016, again, it was just the growth and the development of new businesses that allowed us the freedom to let go of that very healthy salary and continue to grow and expand.
Mhm. Amazing. So who wanted to get into real estate? Whose idea was it? Who convinced who? What were kind of like the deciding factors to even like think about real
Oh,
estate
him,
and investing in
all him. I was 21 years old. I mean, I lived at home. I hadn't even left to go to school. I stayed home. I worked. My goal was to be a sports injury therapist, and this like very cute boy walked into a gym I was managing and had this like insane idea and wanted to hire me as the sales and frontline, like the people person, because that is where my strengths are. And 20 years later, haha, here we are, and he's stuck with me for life. Like, that's the running joke in our household, but it's all
it?
him, all him. My husband definitely is the person who really enjoys the development and the creation of new businesses. And then once he's given birth to this business, he throws it at me, and then I keep them alive. The same way that, I keep our daughter alive and I keep him alive. I'm just the keeper aliver of things.
So what got you curious or even interested in like when he started talking to you about getting into like how did like what even like piqued your interest about it to even want to be involved in doing it?
So honestly, I had no idea what this man was talking about. Like none. I didn't know what he meant by like, oh, we're gonna go and buy apartment buildings. I thought, yeah, okay, sure, dude, whatever. So I was curious more so to understand why this, relatively, intelligent and established. So I'm Iranian, right? So traditionally, and the way that we're raised, education is very, very important, right? So getting that higher education, becoming engineers, doctors, lawyers, dentists, this is a very important thing culturally. It just shows that, you've got ambition and drive. Entrepreneurship, when I was growing up, didn't show that. So for me, my mindset was really like, okay, there's this guy, he's an engineer, he's done all the things he's supposed to do. Like, I was curious, like, what's wrong with him? Why? What is he talking about? And because I lived at home, I didn't have much expenses. I had a relatively, well-paying job for what I was doing with my life at the time. For a student, when you're working on a commission-based employment and you are sales-driven, you do pretty well for yourself. So I was really more curious to see what this like kind of cuckoo crazy was, and then it became really interesting. Like he started taking me to places I'd never been before. And it's going to sound really funny, but I grew up in Toronto, right? So he took me to like Hamilton. Oh my God, this weird little place. What is this? And then from there, we went to like Welland. Oh my God. And 20 years ago, Welland obviously is not what Welland is today, right?
I can't
And so
imagine,
he started taking me
much
all these like
smaller.
little places I'd never been, and it became an adventure, right? So for me, it wasn't so much the real estate aspect of it or the financial freedom aspect of it, because that didn't like compute for me. It didn't make sense for me because I come from a family of immigrants. My parents immigrated here, they work very, very hard. We don't have resources and wealth and things that my parents can pass down to me. So the thought of starting a business and earning substantial amounts of money and having substantial amounts of assets made no sense. But like, oh my God, I'm going on all these adventures and seeing all these like random weird places that I've never seen before. And that's what kind of kept me in it. And then once you're in it, you're kind of stuck. I'm not gonna lie. Like at that point,
I
you
know
kind
once
of
you see it, right? You're just like, this is amazing. That's actually what happened to my husband when he got into it. He's like, what is this world that you're bringing me into?
yeah. Oh yeah. And the type of property we buy, right? My personality lends itself very much to I enjoy the unpredictable. My husband does not. I very much do. So when you've got distressed property and you've got problematic tenants, and it's like Jerry Springer every day. You know what I mean? So who needs
So
cable?
true.
Like this is life. So for me, especially in my youth, that was a lot of fun. I mean, I'm going to tell you, I would rather not have a daily episode of Jerry Springer today. 20 years later, I'm kind of over it. But 10, 15 years ago, I loved it. It was like crack. I suppose it gave me this like, yes, what are we going to do today?
It probably fed into your curiosity. We're
Very
just like,
much.
how the hell do we solve this? Like, what is this crazy person doing?
Yeah, how much more insane can we get? Ooh, we taught this? Yes, okay. Oh, they do get more insane. Yeah. But yeah, no, and it's different back then, right? Like back then it wasn't the same. There weren't the same pressures, and it was a little bit more really, we dealt with more like kind of, I'm drunk, I'm high, kind of crazy versus today, the stress levels and whatnot are from like life, right? People have so much pressure on them. It's not funny
Money.
anymore,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not funny. This is now people's lives and people's stresses, which is different than maybe I had a bad batch and now I'm hallucinating and, oh, okay, we're going to have this conversation. All right, let's have this conversation.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And so from there, I guess you guys learned from each other, I guess, like your skills, like what skills were best for what. You probably brought out things. I feel like especially, I guess what I'm getting to is when specifically like that problems come up. I feel like you really learn more about yourselves, don't you? Like, and I know you talk about, relationship. I've just thought even in partnerships, it's like you just get to see who is the one running to do like certain things and just like dividing and conquering. How did that dynamic work for you guys?
Oh, okay. So I'm not sure if the people online have realized this yet. I'm a very animated individual. And I'm also a very emotional individual. I have grown up a lot since we started, but in the very beginning, the best way to describe it is I went from like zero to burn down the village in 60 seconds. Like, boom, that was it. And my husband, still to this day, is a very logical, rational person who sits and he thinks and he analyzes and he evaluates. So when problems would arise, my instinctual reaction was, let's go fight. Like, this is a war, let's go. And my husband was like, no, no, hold on, wait, let's take a step back. And what we both discovered about one another was if he was to be the sole person solving our problems would never get solved because we're constantly trying to analyze why things are happening. And because we're dealing with human beings, things continue to escalate if they're not addressed. So we would always be analyzing. We also realized that if it was me on my own, more than likely we would have many, many, many lawyers on retainer, and we would have a lot of, financial obligations that are not related to the actual investing because I'm a little hot-headed. So what we came to discover was initially when something would come in, he would be the person who would need to have the first response. And once I had a chance to calm down, I was then able to help speed up the analysis so that we're able to very quickly nip this in the bud before it becomes a full-blown like situation. And I guess the best way to describe how we go about approaching our issues these days. And it's really interesting because we had a lot of, like, we talk about, we learn from each other. We also had a lot of coaches and mentors, right? So we spent a substantial amount of money learning from other people, and they have taught us many great things that have helped us along the way. And one of the things one of our coaches had taught us was in life, no matter what it is that you're doing, when you're approaching a problem or you're trying to solve a situation, you use 50% force and 50% intelligence. So you need to have that moment of analysis and thought and, problem.
Oh, you're muted. I don't know if you have something playing right now. Or yeah, there you go. Sorry, you have to say it again. I don't know what you had, but it muted you for a minute.
My phone was ringing. People want me. Okay, so it was 50% force, 50% intelligence, right? So 50% of the time, you're sitting there and you're using your brain and your logic and your problem solving skills. And if that fails, the other 50% is force. So now you are going in and you're pushing what it is that you require to get done. You can't go 100% force. You can't go 100% intelligence because nothing will get done. You need to find a balance. And we, thank goodness, are that balance for one another.
hmm That's great. You remind me of actually a saying that I've heard is like when emotions are high, intelligence is low. And same thing vice versa, right? Like it's
Yes.
like when intelligence is higher, like emotions aren't there.
Yeah.
And I think it's like basically what you're saying is like finding that balance and like that, like we may not be we're generally, one more than the other, and that complement between partners and partners of any kind is always good. Like you have to have those complements of each other to be able to help lift each other up. Like you said, he'd probably like let you cool down, so and then he would talk or like figure it out, and then when you were ready, you'd be there. Right? Because it sounds like you're also like very much the action taker too. So you're just like ready to go and get things done.
Very much. Like, we don't have time now. Let's just do this.
Yeah.
Like, my thought has always been like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Like, how bad could it possibly get?
And
And
then
he's
you're like,
like, hold
oh,
on
that's
now.
that bad.
We don't need to know. We don't need to know how
Yeah,
bad it's going to get. Okay.
yeah.
Let's use our brains
Just
for a
wait
minute.
until it happens, and then you're like, oh man, that was pretty bad.
It'll be
Okay.
fine. Yeah.
That's so funny. So in your journey so far, because you've also had you were in real estate, you started your business. Um, was it because you went to real estate, you were investing first and then you guys started the business.
Yeah.
So how did that transition happen? And what kind of like changes did you have to make in yourselves to get to that next level? Or did you even feel there was much change?
Okay. So I don't think I've ever been a very good employee. Uh, right then
And
and
what
there.
does that mean? I'm curious for you to say, like, what does that to you
So
mean?
I was never good at like listening to people tell me what to do, especially if what they were telling me to do was a little bit questionable. Like I felt like maybe they didn't fully understand what they were asking me to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wasn't one to sit and listen very well. I wasn't one to sit and kind of just do the same thing over and over and over again. And throughout my life, and again, we started our businesses. I was still very, very young. I was 21 years old. So, I haven't really adulted at this point in my life. I want to
Mm-hmm.
pretend like I have, but I haven't.
Mm-hmm.
But the jobs that I took when I was in school, the jobs that I would take, over the summers, they were always performance based. They were always commissions based jobs. And I always did really, really well, really
Mm-hmm.
well. And I found that if I was able to do my own thing, kind of, you gave me a target, you left me alone to do what I needed to do, it was going to get done. And the minute you started to kind of interfere and try and tell me how to do things, you and I would kind of have a little bit of a situation. Now, my husband and I also have those little bits of situations because every so often he technically is my boss and he needs to kind of, reel things in. And I don't do well with that. So for me, naturally, progressing out of the employment, because I was traditionally employed when we first kind of got into these businesses, and moving out of that and into running our businesses full time, where I was, selling the services of our property management company. I was dealing with our tenants. I was finding buildings that we were purchasing. I was dealing with. For me, it was a natural progression. It didn't feel like it was a big shift. I just finally felt like I was allowed to do what I needed to do. And because my husband was very well employed and we, lived in Ottawa, our expenses were generally very manageable. It wasn't a huge shift when we were able to replace that income that I was bringing in with our business income. I think the biggest shift was when we had our daughter and decided to not only have a baby, but leave Ottawa, move back to Toronto, and forfeit my husband's salary. In that instance, it was kind of like, okay, hold on one second. Are we insane? And I think that was the moment that we really took that jumping off a bridge without a parachute and building it on the way down.
Mm-hmm.
We had he had 12 months of parental leave. It's not like we got a top up or anything, but we were in a position where we were able to let him do that. And we had 12 months to build the construction company that my husband was working on at that time. And it was 12 months of brand new baby. I have no idea what I'm doing. And we need to generate contract, generate leads, and create investments that are now going to cover a very, very large gap. And that required quite a shift, more from his side than mine, because at that point I'd been kind of doing our own thing for 10 years at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But it was very different. It became very apparent as to how comfortable you can get when there's money constantly being deposited into your bank account. You don't have to think about it.
Yeah. It's so
Versus you're like,
true, right?
okay, we've got $150,000 in materials. What's the deposit check that we've got? Oh, okay, we need a spread. Can we cover it? If not, how are we going to get this job done? It was quite the shift, and 8 years later, here we are. So clearly, we figured it out, and it hasn't
Yeah,
been
yeah.
horrible. And neither one of us are looking for a job, so it works.
Yeah, it's funny, but sometimes, especially certain types of people like that will thrive in it if they want to do it like that. Like I'm sure he wanted
Yeah,
to get out of the 9 to 5 and do his own thing, you know. So and like say, I mean, and same thing with you. You were always wanting to just be like, give me a target and let me
yeah,
do my thing, and I can make it happen. So I feel like when it's like you have these types of mentalities you're naturally and you're given like that, okay, I have to figure out how the hell I'm gonna make money in 1 year so that I don't like just deplete ourselves or have to go back to a nine to
yeah,
five. Especially I feel like you that once you're in it and you I mean love what you do, if you're an entrepreneur, like if you have the entrepreneurial spirit, it's so hard to go back. Or even I would say like my husband, for example, he's not an entrepreneur, but he has his own business. I set it up for him, so I set the
yeah,
groundwork and he can maintain it. But like that, like even him, he manages now his own business and everything. But because he can choose when he wants to work, he can like decide to take customers, take a month off. Like right now he's been like I think 3 months not working. Like he's on a hiatus. He just doesn't want to work for some reason, but he has the ability to do that.
yeah,
And so I remember someone was like I can't remember, he was like getting upset about a project or something. One of his workers like, you want to go back to like and he's just like, no.
yeah.
He's like I'd rather deal with this problem that is going to be temporary than go back to a 9 to 5.
Oh yeah. Like it's not even, I laugh. People ask sometimes, like, how do you do it? I'm like, I don't have a choice. Like nobody's gonna hire me. And if they do, they're not gonna keep me for long. Like, I talk back. I'm not very like,
Yeah.
I don't listen well.
For me, I feel like it's the other way around. Like, yes, I get hired, but if I'm not in a very stimulating environment, I can't be bored. So it's like if you don't have a project for me, you don't have things going on, I'm going on to the next business, the next thing. Although like that same thing, like now I'm out. It's just like, no, it's never gonna happen. I like doing my own thing. It's fun.
Much more fun. I
Yeah.
mean, it's stressful. It causes very many sleep. I don't want people to think that like once you're an entrepreneur, it's great. I mean, no, being an employee is very easy compared to entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
Um, you
Actually,
don't
what would you
sleep. Yeah.
say, because it is true what you're saying, what would you say is like if someone is thinking to be fully out of their job, what kind of person do you have to be? You think like what kind of like, I don't know, skills or things or like, I don't know, mentality do you have to be, let's say, an entrepreneur? Because you're right, it is stressful and there lots of like hard things happen during the process. Like it's not easy peasy at
No.
all. And I mean,
No, and I don't think that people talk about it enough, in my opinion.
no, I
I think
agree.
people talk about the struggles that you have because you can't be creative or you're kind of stuck in a box when you're employed. And, as human beings, when you're stuck in a box, it kills you slowly, but it takes away the essence of your beingness. Entrepreneurship, yes, you get to create and you have freedoms to an extent, but you as an individual have to be ready to understand that there are going to be times where you want to go on vacation and you can't, or you have planned a vacation and you are canceling that vacation. There are going to be long weekend what? Like Friday, Saturday, woohoo, what? You are going to be, especially in the beginning when you're setting yourself up to become stable. This isn't, I work 2 or 3 hours a week and I'm going to be in the top 1% of my field. Like, no, you are not. I promise you, the people at the top 1%, the Richard Bransons, the Elon Musks, they today, with the billions that they have, don't work 4 hours a week. That's
Mhm,
not what entrepreneurship is.
mhm,
Entrepreneurship also means that at one point or another, not only are you responsible for you, you're responsible for a whole ton of other people. So if you don't succeed, other people's lives now change. And
Yeah.
that is a lot of stress. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of responsibility. And these are things that are going to keep you up, which they will. I mean, I definitely don't have the best sleeping habits. I wake up in the middle of the night sometimes and it's like, oh, shoot, I forgot to do this. Or, oh, I had the best idea. Oh, my goodness. And this is just a natural part of it. If you're not somebody who deals well with high pressure and high stress, this is something that could probably actually harm you more than it would do you good. Maybe it's not entrepreneurship you need. Maybe it's that side hustle. Maybe it's that additional little, bit that you're going to take to supplement or complement or allow you an outlet without it becoming that primary driving force. You also have to be ready to be rejected because you are going to fail. Oh my God, you are going to make so many mistakes. And if you're somebody who, when you do something, let's say that didn't result in what you thought it was, views it as, oh my God, I just failed, and you're going to go down that, let me analyze all the things that I did wrong and why did I do them, you're going to get stuck. You're going to get stuck and you're not going to grow. I think one of the biggest keys when it comes to entrepreneurship is recognizing when it's time to shift, when it's time to accept that the path you were on is not the right path anymore. And shifting and going in a different direction doesn't mean you failed. Failure is staying on that path, knowing that, the ship is burning or the plane is crashing. But success is knowing that when the ship starts to sink, you are either guiding it out or you are getting into that lifeboat and you're going towards whatever piece of land you've got that's going to allow you to continue to succeed. If you've built it once, building a second time is actually easier. Just going to say.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid of those things. Be afraid of not evolving because the lack of evolution is actually what will kill an entrepreneur. If you want your business to be exactly the same as it is today in 20 years, your business won't succeed. It will slowly fade away. Your job is to make what you're doing today obsolete and create the solution to what your clientele need next.
I love that. That's so true because, Ron, yeah, if you're a person that sees failure as an end, is basically what you're saying, don't get into entrepreneurship because failure is like a daily thing.
Every day.
At the very beginning, at least, at the very beginning, you feel like you're failing like on a daily basis. I feel
Every
like it
day.
starts spreading out after a while, but like failure is like a normal part of your lifestyle now. So it's like if failure is an end, it'll end very quickly, and you'll be back to your 9 to 5. So if your mentality is there, yeah,
Yeah, no,
do not, do not be an entrepreneur.
no,
And
definitely not. If you don't
yeah.
like to hear the word no, if every time you ask a question, your expected response is, oh, absolutely, you're amazing, I would love that, definitely not for you as well.
Yeah, yeah, those are such great points because it is very true. It's hard, and that, like you were saying, that evolution to be able to evolve and change, because it's like someone's gonna say no, but you need to understand
Yeah.
why they're saying no, because now you're having to change, or even what we've seen in the market, right? A lot of us were flippers and burrs, long-term renters. Now we're evolving to developments
Yeah.
and multi-families, right? It's so that you have like, and that's in anything, like real estate's like that, but anything you get into, you're having to change and evolve. Like we're going into the AI age now.
Yes.
So that's going to transform us a lot, right? We're going to have to change. So it's like, if you do not like change, do not go into
Definitely not it. Yeah,
entrepreneurship.
definitely. If you like security, if you like knowing that every Friday there's going to be X number of dollars in your bank account, like definitely not for
Yeah.
you. And I don't say that I don't mean to say that in a way that is like mean or belittling, but as entrepreneurs, there are days where you really wonder if all you're going to be eating for the next month is like Mr. Noodle from the dollar store because
Mhm.
you've put so much into your business and it hasn't yielded back. Or there are times where you're chasing 40, 50, $60,000 of payables. You have given service, you've completed your service, and people aren't paying you, and you don't know how you're going to pay your bills. And it is
Mhm.
scary. And when it's
Mhm.
you and your partner who are doing this together, it becomes a source of, tension if you're not able to manage that emotion as well, right? Because
100%.
it's scary. It's so scary to think that, like, maybe we're not going to have, meat this week at all. And we're just going
Mhm.
to deal with cup of noodle because there's no money. There's no money there. And I mean, real estate, exactly that. Real estate, you'll have $100,000 in the account one day and you're $100,000 in your line of credit the next. And you're going, what is happening? If
Yeah.
these things will cause you unbelievable stress, if you're going to end up with an ulcer, don't do it. Don't do it. All because you chose not to do it. That is winning. Knowing it's
Mhm.
not right for you, that's winning. It's not failure.
100%. Or even like you could still be a real estate investor, but it's not going to be a full-time
Yes.
job. Like you're going to buy one property, maybe every 5 to 10 years, and that's perfectly fine because that's like your little retirement properties right there.
Absolutely.
Anyways, like 2 houses, I think is even good enough for people who don't want to do this as a full-time. You get two little
Absolutely.
houses. They're paid off in 20 years. And at least,
Absolutely.
you have your little cash cows there for anything, like it's renting it out. So it's giving you your monthly income, whatever it is. So it's also like knowing in the real estate environment where you stand
Yeah.
and what works for you is definitely very important. So,
Absolutely.
so,
Absolutely.
so for yourself, what were, and actually before I say it, I forgot to charge my phone. So while you're talking, I'm gonna quickly run and get my
Sounds
charger.
good.
But so if you see me
I
disappear,
won't
that's
judge
why.
you.
I'll be back. Just keep on talking until I'm like 2 seconds. But so my question is, now that you've been in this and you've gone through your stages, what is the biggest mindset shift that you've gone through? And I'll be
Okay.
back.
So the biggest shift I think I would say is don't chase the money. It's not about the money. I know we're all in it because we want to have a certain amount of income and we want to live a certain lifestyle. And yes, we need money to do that. But if your goal and the only thing that you're chasing is X number of dollars, for some reason, the universe seems to have that number of dollars running away from you. So you're constantly chasing it. And I tell you this from personal experience. We had very set financial targets. It doesn't mean that we don't have them, but now we go based on what it is that we're creating and putting into the universe. So how are we giving value to those within our community or universe, whatever you want, whatever word you want to use it? How are we providing value? How are we creating something of value, which in turn will result in there being exchange and people paying us and whatnot? But it's about what is it that we're creating? What are we doing that is going to make, let's say, the street that I bought this 10plex on, what am I doing to make the street a little bit better? What am I doing to make, the living conditions of my tenants a little bit better? What am I doing to make, my whatever it is, like in our co-working space, we own a co-working space in Richmond Hill. What do we do every single day that is going to help our members do a little bit better in their own businesses? It's not about how many members can I bring in and how many, dollars can I go in. It's what kind of value can I add to my members so that when they come here, they see an improvement. It's not just somewhere that they're working, but it's somewhere that's actually allowing growth within their own businesses. And when we start looking at things that way, things naturally grow. And by magic, money also starts to come. So I think
Mhm.
that was the biggest mindset shift, because you're so trained, especially in real estate, when you have taken, we took a lot of courses. We definitely didn't just decide to do this on our own. We had a lot of courses. Not all of the information in 2004 was applicable in the Canadian market, but it gave us something to use as a benchmark to kind of learn from and improve. And what was drilled into our heads is $100 a door, X number of dollars means X number of doors. No, newsflash for us. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. Why would I buy one unit that makes me $100 and then have to buy, 100 of those if I can buy one unit that yields me $500, and now I only need 20 of them.
Mhm.
So these kinds of things really, really changed how we did things. And then realizing that you don't have to do it all, right? FOMO is a big thing. So I think this new generation, with all of this like fear of missing out, they're going to try and do everything. You don't need to do everything. Jack of all trades, master of none. Pick something that you enjoy, something that you're good at, master that craft and evolve with it. And naturally, you will find that as an entrepreneur, when you have a business, new businesses are birthed just because you realize there's something that's missing and you want to fill that need for yourself, and it just kind of evolves.
I love that. I completely agree with you. I feel like that, like if you're, and I think that the reason that happens to people at the beginning where they're only thinking about money is generally maybe you're lacking the money or you don't realize that there's something behind the money. You know, like I want financial freedom to do the things that I want to
Yeah.
do, whatever that means. And that means I need an X amount of dollars to do that. But I really felt that actually when I left my 9 to 5, I had my money and I just very mathematically was just like, well, I made this much money last year just on real estate, you know, and full time, I should technically be doubling that. And on top of that, it's a new year. I should also be increasing, like each year, I should increase my income, right? So I like logically make my numbers and I'm like, so this is how much money I should be making this year because of how I did the year before. And because I had nothing behind it, I was like a lost little puppy, not motivated at all, so confused. And I did it, I think I upped my income like maybe in the year, I think it just up to like $5,000. Like I just couldn't do anything that like substantial. Like I maintained everything.
Yeah.
That's it. But an increased $5,000 in the year, not even a month, like
Yeah.
in the year. So it was like a year of like being
Yeah.
lost and then like you said, like then it was like, okay, what is my
Yeah.
purpose? You know, what do I really want to do? Like what do I really like?
Yeah.
And then the next years after that was just like, okay, now it's just like, you know, then it gets exciting and like you said, things start coming
Yes.
because you have fun with what you do. Because I'm finding the things that I enjoy doing, you know. So it's like when you're doing the things that you enjoy, yes, it's gonna come with stress because it will, but it also comes with the money too because like you love it when the product is finally done,
Yeah.
you know, you love it when your goal is achieved and you've helped, like you said, you've helped so many people, like something actually like people received a benefit from it, that all these things like really get you excited if obviously that's what you want to do.
So I just want to make one thing very clear in case I didn't. Everything that you just said, the number of dollars, your targets for growth, all of they have to be done and they have to be monitored and they have to be measured regularly. They must. But that is like the first step. And what we failed to do personally is once we set those targets, we never said, now what am I giving to the people who are going to give me this money in exchange? I just assumed I'm going to buy a building. You have a place to live. It'll be clean. It'll be nice. Bob's your uncle. I'm going to be rich. No, it's a little bit more than that. And that's really what it is. But we are on top, like our financials, we're reviewing with our bookkeeping team weekly, every single Wednesday, because we need to know what's working, what's not working, what needs to get adjusted, what's happening. So don't ever think that it's not required. It absolutely 100% is. And you're always going to start there, but don't stop at, I need 100 units at $100 because I need $10,000 a month.
Mhm.
You need to go from, okay, now what am I giving to these people who are paying me? And how am I
Mhm.
bettering their existence so that the value they perceive is so much higher than that $100 that I'm going to get?
100%. And even what you're saying is like, don't pigeonhole yourself. Because, yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny you say that. I also heard that too. It's like $100 a door. And I remember being the same. I'm like, hell no. I'm like, my doors are going to have a lot more than $100. I'm like, what are you talking
Yeah.
about? Right. And I remember when I would tell people what I would make per door, they were in shock.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I just stuck to my guns. I refuse to be pigeonholed in that only exists. And I'm like, no, I'm like, I know I'll find good properties also, that I know I can find good tenants. Like I had all my criterias that this is what I want in my properties. And that's all I looked for. And I was like, I refuse to be pigeonholed as like, you can only find these certain types of properties. They're like, nope. I'm like, watch me. I'm gonna
Watch me.
find
I
it.
do that really well.
Yeah.
If I wasn't a celiac, it'd be hold my beer.
Yeah, so I love that. Those are such great points that you've given, because it is very important, like that, like yes, like you said, the like you need to definitely run your numbers. So important. You have to know like that and know what value you're giving, but also just knowing yourself in a goal sense, like why are you doing this? Like what is the definition of your, let's say, money goal? If and what does that mean? Because generally, if you're just putting a number like I did, it's not going to work out very well, because you actually realize you don't get motivated by money. It's what's behind the money that's actually motivating you.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And so now moving forward to what is your, if you want to share, your 5, 10 year goal? Like what is that big goal that you have? And so what kind of changes are you seeing in yourself that you're having to do now to achieve those bigger goals?
Okay. So, oh man, okay. So we own a co-working space, my husband and I, just after COVID. So once the final lockdowns were lifted and we were finally able to like, I don't know, start living a semi-normal life again, as society. Um, we had an opportunity to acquire some office space, and in turn, with a partner of ours, decided that we were going to create a co-working space. We don't need that much office space just for us. He doesn't need that much office space just for him. So why not, reduce our expenses and whatnot? Our office, our co-working space has definitely done much better than any of us were expecting. I think it's the environment that we've created, the ethos, the culture within the space itself. It's very different than what you're used to seeing in a traditional place. All of the art, as the gentlemen in our office say, it's like you threw Lena all over the walls. It's graffiti, it's kind of pop arty, it's got a little bit of hip hop gangster in it, but it's super motivational all at the same time, and it's very, very bright and loud. So because of the success that we have seen, because of the demand that we are having, and because my husband is who my husband is, our goal is obviously to franchise this at some point. Our goal is to continue to prove this concept, continue to grow our own locations, and then at some point franchise that. With that obviously has come other like evolutions again, right? So as your business has grown, as your needs grow, new business opportunities or shifts in existing businesses occur. So our goal obviously is now to build, and to build properties, what preferably multi-residential properties. We're not really looking into building condos, but we are looking to build multi-family properties, you know, large scale, to be able to have these co-working spaces on the main floor as a mixed use building. Obviously now you've got built-in clientele, your tenants who might be working from home have spaces to do things. These are goals that we have personally. There are a few other business ideas that I personally have that I am hoping to be able to throw into the world over the course of the next 5 years. These are definitely very outside of the box kind of thinking type things. And once again, driven by my personality and the type of person that I am and the lack of like, I don't know, fun outlets that I feel people like me have. I feel like, people who are loud and maybe like to throw things at walls generally are made to feel like maybe this is not normal responses to situations. And I want to like normalize it. So that's really where our focuses are. It's to kind of grow this existing co-working space and business and continue to evolve that. And then to throw in this new, again, which will probably end up being also a franchise. So I think we're going down into the world of becoming franchisors.
Mhm. That'll be
I think
fun.
that's where the next 10 years of our lives are going. And again, I'm very fortunate to have somebody as my partner, both in business and in life, who is very good at creating the systems and creating processes to be able to continuously duplicate and yield the same results to allow us to kind of go into that world. I don't want to own
Mhm.
100 flex space locations, but I would love to have 100 flex space locations that I can help kind of keep
Grow.
alive. Yeah.
Hmm. That's amazing. And actually another great point that you basically are alluding to, because I know some people think, for example, partners have to be like you're married to someone in a relationship with someone, like you have to work together. I think understanding when it actually works and when it doesn't is also a very important part. You know, it's like when you have the skills or you and the right skills to put
Yeah.
together, or even like the personalities to just mesh well to work together, then you do it. But it also doesn't mean that you have to do it together, because I feel like there's people that think they have to. The same thing, me and my husband work on projects together on the real estate side because he also has a renovation business. So we'll work on projects together. And same thing, like we have a dynamic that works really well. Very similar to yours. Like I'm more of the calm one. He's like the outgoing, crazy one, you know. So usually
The
I'm
fun
like
one.
trying to like calm him down a little, right? I'm same thing, like I'm more front facing when it comes to the tenants because he'll probably just like break down doors and like like kill if he needs to type of scenario,
And
you know,
he'll
and
get in
I'm just like
trouble. I
let's
won't.
not go there, you know.
He'll get in trouble. I won't. I'm a 5 foot tall woman who weighs like 110 pounds. Put a ponytail on my head, wash off the makeup. Nobody's yelling at me.
Yeah, but it is like there's some
Yeah.
relationships that can work very, very well, but then there's others where it's like knowing yourself
Yeah.
and your partner well enough, I think, to make those decisions or make sure how that's gonna happen too together. Like if because sometimes it's also I felt like this happened to us where we we I set up his business, his renovation business. I actually felt it was going to ruin our relationship, so I went out of it. But what I ended up learning getting into real estate then together with him, because I was like, like I want your skills, like they're so useful, you know? Like I was like, how do I get you in and we don't kill each other? And what really worked well for us is we actually work as two separate businesses.
Yeah.
Like I hire him,
Yep.
right? I don't so we don't work like in the business together. It's like I hire him to do the projects, right? So he treats me as a
Yeah.
customer, which is very weirdly different because I'm not involved in his business stuff. Like I'm
Yeah.
not saying nothing to him. Like you do you. I know how he works
Yeah.
because I also help him anyways. Like I know we read each other's minds now. You know when you've been together too long, like he knows exactly what I want. You know, if I want certain things, like he already knows. I tell him in 2 seconds. It's already
Yeah.
like he knows too.
You communicate with
Um,
nostril flares and
yeah,
little weird noises. Yeah. I don't need to say anything.
yeah,
Little flare of the nostrils. We know where this is going.
yeah, exactly. So it's just also even I say don't be afraid if it doesn't
Yeah.
work the first time, because if you know those skills are also there, it's just finding the right way to also work together. But if they're really not there, like do not ever push it, because if someone's not interested, they're not interested, and like you just don't work together. You do you, and then they'll probably still
Absolutely.
support you, and they'll support you on the outside, and they don't have to be in it to support you. Like there's different levels of support too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if
Mhm.
you are in it together, remember what works for you may not be the same as what works for me, and it doesn't make it work. It's
Yeah.
just what's right for you. So don't stress. Don't stress about what the books say and YouTube says and TikTok says. Balance is for you and what's balanced for the two of you and your family unit and nothing else.
And now that you say that, actually, because that's very much communication and how to talk to each other, because it is like the way I receive information is different. For example, the way my husband receives information, and I used to give him the information the way I would understand it,
Yeah.
whereas now I've learned to change
Yeah.
it. So, what tips do you have? Because I know you know much more about this stuff. I'm sure you have amazing tips. What tips would you give to the viewers to help in communication to make
Okay.
sure your businesses run well and that you're
Okay.
teams are cohesive teams and they're able to actually function without like tearing each other apart.
Okay, so one thing that I will say, just because you're speaking and you're speaking the same language doesn't mean that you're being heard. So the key to communication isn't just getting the words out, it's getting duplication of what it is that you're communicating, right? So if I am saying, you need to get me a glass of water and you keep bringing me orange juice, like you're hearing me, you're bringing me some sort of a fluid, but we're not getting duplication. So the first thing is you, as the person putting that communication out, needs to understand why you are not getting duplication. It's not the other person, it's you, because this is now your responsibility. It's you who's trying to get something out. So I'm sure by now, we've been on for a little while, people have come to realize I'm a little bit, you know, I'm not a very structured individual. I'm very kind of go with the flow, and thank God nobody committed me today and I am not in jail. Those are like the celebrations that I have on a daily basis. Yes, I'm not in jail today. Yes, nobody picked me up and committed me. I'm not on a 72-hour hold. Hurrah. And my husband is my husband is an engineer. And it's very important for you to be able to recognize that there is a very specific way that every individual that you encounter will be willing to hear or is able to hear. And it's also important to know that a person, when they are overwhelmed, when there's so much that's been thrown at them, until they have an outlet to get some of that out, they're not going to hear anything. Like they're at capacity. So when you're going to communicate something with your team, number one, do you believe that they have the capacity to hear what it is that you're saying? Or have you just dumped 30 other things on them without giving them an opportunity to give you feedback first, right? So you gave them a whole lot of inflow, but you haven't given them an opportunity for outflow. So now you're throwing another 10 things that's just going to hit them in the head and bounce right off. Second is, are you speaking the same language? So we talk a lot, and I mean, everybody talks a lot right now, especially as we get closer to the new year. We talk a lot about, we're going to manifest what it is that we want to bring into the new year. So I try to explain to my husband that, you've got to be positive in what you think about and what you say and what you put out there, because if you put negativity out there, nothing's going to come in. My husband's an engineer, and his response to me is, I don't believe in this foo-foo universe stuff. I believe in mathematics. Now, this is who my husband is married to. I looked at him and I said, well, math says that if you put a negative where there's supposed to be a positive, you're never going to solve the equation you're trying to solve. You're going to work and you're going to work and you're going to work, and the result that you're going to get is never going to be what it is supposed to be, because you replace the positive with a negative. So don't put negatives in the equation. And he kind of looked at me and you
He's
could
like, I
watch
guess that works.
everything kind of going. And I said, see, it's the law of mathematics. But he heard it. It resonated with him because I related it to something that he understood. And this is something that's very, very important, right? If I tell my daughter, who is 8 years old, do not run off and what can I even say? We have such different conversations with our kid. If I was to yell at her and be like, Arya, don't eat all that candy because, you're going to die. I'm going to scare her. She might not eat it. She won't know why. But then at some point, it's going to sit in her head and she's going to be like, well, I ate 30 pieces yesterday and nothing happened to me. Well, let's eat a few more and, nothing's going to go. But if you say to her and you say, Arya, honey, like, please don't eat so much candy. Your body is not designed for this much sugar and it could cause other issues that may one day. And you explain it to her in terms that she understands. You're not going to say, well, your insulin levels are going to go and then you're going to develop insulin resistance. Well, no, you're going to say, baby, when you eat lots of sugar, your body isn't able to process the sugar, and then it sits in your body and it's going to make you sick. That's what an 8-year-old needs to hear. Mm-hmm. Now, a 50-year-old, you may think, needs to hear insulin resistance and things like this, but it's quite possible that they haven't even gotten that firsthand of information of your body can't process it, so it's going to make you sick. So get that first little bit first. Figure out where they're at. Don't assume that they're going to understand. We live in a world of artificial intelligence, right? And like natural unintelligence these days, right? People are more and more being taught it's okay not to think for themselves. So don't
Mhm.
assume that they're thinking. Assume that they're not, and gauge the response as you're speaking to them to see what kind of a gradient you can raise that level of communication with, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah, completely. And I think it's very, very true. And I think we don't realize how much we make assumptions in our lives and in communication. Because I can tell you, it's funny that, I when I hired my assistant, I remember I hired her, and actually even before that, my sister was helping me, and because she's very good at marketing and stuff, so she was just like helping me with some stuff, and I think like half the stuff was said in my head, and then the end is what came out, you know. And it was so funny because I was like, one of the things was like, hey, make me a business card, for example.
Yeah.
Right? And she comes back with like 20 million
Yeah.
questions because she's like, I don't have enough
Yeah.
information to, so it's like also like I feel like that communication is so important. And like that with what I was gonna say with my assistant is that I would say something to her, and the result that would come back, like it was like you said, like I was like, what the
Yeah.
hell did I say to get that? You know,
Yeah.
like sometimes I was just like, and it really made me actually having an assistant, especially, really made me notice that, for example, I'd make assumptions even when I would say things. Because I mean, like that. Like I had my sister, she kind of put me in order. She was just like, okay, you need to provide more information. I started getting that in. But then with my assistant, especially that English isn't her first language, it
Yes.
was okay, know, in Canada, we also assume things that people in other countries may not make those assumptions because it's different and
Yeah.
interpretation may even come differently. So I remember I was having to like over explain things or like really pay attention to what I would say because it would just I was like, oh, I could see how that could get interpreted in that way, but I just in Canada we do it this way all the time that like someone here would never think to do it that way. But if you're from somewhere else, that may not be true. So it was very interesting. So it's like communication, yeah, is so important. And like you said, those assumptions gotta like start becoming aware of when you're making
Yeah.
assumptions to remove them and just be more curious. I feel like ask more questions. So like you said, so that you can better understand that
Yeah.
person, so you can speak to that person better and actually have true communication. And you do realize how much you've been missing in communication until you bring those awarenesses into you
Yes.
and you really start kind of being super curious about the world. Like I've become sometimes like I feel like I ask way too many questions because I'm like, why did they say that? Like what did I say to make that
Yeah.
happen? Like you just start like your
Yeah.
mind just starts going off.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when you can, write it down so that there is no question about what you're trying to say. And then they have an opportunity to read it at their pace, ask questions at their pace, and everybody's kind of, not. But yeah, definitely, if you're not getting the result you're expecting, something's not right in what you're communicating. You are the problem. Now, if
Mm-hmm.
you've got all of this down and you've got it written and everything's kind of gone through and you're still not getting, no, maybe okay, it's not. But
Mm-hmm.
that first time, it's
Exactly.
100% you. Own it,
Yeah,
fix it.
100%. Any final words before we get off that you want to share with the audience? Either things you got going on or just like a summary of like your best tips?
Um, if I were to give you my best tips, it would be trust yourself, trust your instincts, and if it doesn't feel right, don't do it, no matter how much money's involved.
I love it. Lena, thank you so much for coming on. It
Thank you
was
for
so much
having
fun.
me.
It was so much fun to chat with you. You gave so many amazing tips. If you guys love what you heard from her, she's going to be tagged on here. And so you'll be able to DM her, see what she's up to. If you love what you heard from me, follow me too. You can also see what I'm up to these days. Lena, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on.
you.
Bye, everyone. We'll see everyone in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.